Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI, the podcast that connects marketing to your business's revenue and covers everything you need to know to stay up to date in this crazy digital marketing world.
Welcome to Digital Marketing ROI. I'm your host, Shannon Allen, and I'm joined by Krystal. Hello.
Hi, Shannon. How are you?
Happy almost, it's going to be the end of May before we know it, right?
I know. I love it because it's the beginning of summer, but also I do feel like this year has gone by really fast.
I know. My kid's 13 now. She's a teenager.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
How are you surviving?
I will say, I think 11 and 12, 11 was almost worse.
Yeah.
12, as 12 kind of wore on, I think she's gotten better, and right now we're in a better place. And I've had some moms tell me that 11 and 12 can be really rough. I know it's not getting that much easier, but her playing sports and things like that, we connect on those kind of things.
Yeah,
so
that's important. Well, and you guys spend a lot. You guys spend a lot of time.
We
together,
do.
So that's good.
Yeah, we do. But I am not going to be one of those. I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm very close with my mom, and she is my friend. I don't need my teenager to be my friend.
No.
I love her, and we can connect, but I'm always mom until it's time for us to be friends.
100%.
That's how
once she's an adult.
Then we're friends.
Then you're friends.
And I mean that in the nicest way. I want her to confide in me and stuff, but I want her to confide in me as her mom, not as her friend.
Yes.
There's a difference,
yes.
right? All right. Today we're going to continue the last podcast 2 weeks ago. We talked about AI and just really practical ways for a business to use it. This is about how consumers search and how AI has already been around. The only thing they did different that you're seeing now is the way it shows up at the top of the page. This is AI generated.
Yes.
And we rely on that. But the thing that we're going to talk about today is how AI will continue to change what we work with, which is search engine marketing. This is the paid Google ads, the paid Bing ads that show up at the top of the page that show sponsored. How is that going to affect it? So that's our topic for today. And I think it's a great one.
I think it's a great topic. And it's something that I think we can all relate to, even if we are not, even for business owners that aren't currently doing search engine marketing, you might want to reconsider that. We see it all the time as consumers. So let's start with the foundation of what's happening on the search engine results page, because it used to just be, you'd have a smart snippet and a couple of ads, and then everything
God,
else.
it changes so much.
But now it is including AI generated answers, and it says, like you said, it says generated with AI at the top. There's rich shopping features that if you're shopping for a certain type of product, it brings up all sorts of different things, including things from local businesses. What's happening in traditional paid search ad, and is it the beginning of the end of SEM?
Well, it is not.
Okay.
I'm going to start there. But you're right, Krystal. Google search is evolving faster than ever. Now, what I want to bring up is when I do a training session, and I do a couple a year, especially with new employees, every time I do it, so let's say I do it 2 times a year, there's a slide in my SEM deck that is an example of a search engine results page. The acronym is SERP. I have to change that slide every single time because it changes constantly. And I love that I can go back to like 2021 and that page and what it looked like, the colors, the sponsored, where the Google shopping was, where how many ads came up, when organic shows up. Like, it's crazy.
I bet it's radically
It's radically.
I haven't seen this in years.
And so honestly, a year ago, I did that. I put some past ones in and showed my new employees, like, this is how rapidly things change. Yeah. So that first and foremost, we know it's changing rapidly. Second, SEM still is, out of everything we sell, delivers the highest ROI of any digital marketing channel. I'm going to tell you that again. SEM will deliver the highest when done right, because they are in that zero moment of truth and they're ready to buy, right? Mm-hmm. So what's crazy about how these changes are actually creating new opportunities for really smart advertisers, right? Mm-hmm. So as a marketing agency, we have to make sure we understand that. Those answer boxes and shopping carousels, they're not killing search ads. They're changing how users engage with the page, right? It's different. So we're seeing clients who adapt their strategies that actually improve their conversion rates. So I'll give an example, like in the automotive industry, you can do the Google listings, which are, more the automotive vehicle listing, right? That can be an example of the carousel of the car, right? It can
what your inventory is.
What your inventory is.
Yeah.
And so we have clients that we've said you don't want to do one without the other.
Yeah.
And if you have to pick one, because you want to have probably at least like a $3,000 budget with an inventory that makes sense to do that, but you should have both the listing and the text version, right?
100%.
But there's lots of options up there. The businesses that are struggling are the ones that are going to be stubborn, and they're going to use the same strategy from 5 years ago. They have to be open to change. It's not about fighting these new features. It's really about learning how to leverage them. And the best news is if you work with a digital agency like FDS, we're going to always show you what's changing and advise you when to use it, when not to use it, and give our recommendations so you don't have to think that through.
100%. Because, well, to your point, these platforms are changing all the time. Google is changing all the time. And even in those, 6-month snapshots, those are just the snapshots at 6 months. If you had looked 3 months in between, halfway in between those, it would still look different.
Well, and the question I always ask in a training with new people is, how many of you click on the Google paid ads? And nobody raises their hand because they think they're not supposed to. And I'm like, why do you think Google is $1 billion industry? More than that. It's because of those paid ads. They're not making money on every other little thing. It's that. So right now, these new answer boxes appear in about 45% of searches, which is up from 12% last year. Users spend 34% less time looking at traditional text ads when a summary box is present. So you have to be more strategic. But keep in mind, 34% is still a big number of people that want to look at the text ads. So if you don't have text ads, you're missing out of an audience. Click-through rates on traditional text ads have been dropping, right? So you want to be ready to be able to pivot when needed into other avenues. I've also seen cost per click continuously go down this year compared to last year, and I think that's because they're shifting where they're getting their paid ads. Google's going to continue to find ways to charge you that if it's not in a traditional text box with SEM, it's going to be in an answer box, it's going to be Google listings, it's going to be Google shopping, whatever it needs to be, they're going to find their way to get your money, but they're going to make you do multiple things.
Well, and they have to balance between their revenue and not alienating their users, right? Yeah. So it's that delicate balance of they want people to click on those ads, but they also want to not seem so like ad first.
And remember, Google decides when they want to bring something up to you as an AI generated or a paid ad. And I don't know how they'll do it, but there'll be some kind of paid AI that you come up first. I mean, that it's just going to be inevitable with that. I mean, that's what SEM is. Now, it's not as simple as I pay more money for the bid and I get there. There's two factors, and you have to factor in your quality score and things like that that are always going to be the secret sauce, their algorithm, right? This is something from a strategy standpoint that business owners need to be thinking about.
So you said that cost per click is going down and clicks are going down. Are these AI generated answers then changing user behavior?
So users stop at answer boxes for basic questions about over 60% of the time. They might not even scroll to see the ad to some extent. For product searches, however, Google shopping results capture like 56% of clicks when they appear. So a lot of times what Google's just doing is following consumer behavior, which is exactly what we say, follow the consumer journey. Video gets more engagement, but display still gets a lot of clicks, right?
Yes.
So I wouldn't necessarily say that my clicks are down with reporting what I'm seeing. Cost per click is going down, but I don't think we're quite at that tipping point yet. We're not at a point yet where businesses need to shuffle all their money into the Google listings or the Google shopping. And by the way, that doesn't always work for every business out there, right? There's not Google shopping. If you're hospice and you're looking for which hospice is the best hospice to use during a time like that, you might see some AI generated come up, but you're going to see some paid ads when you're specifically asking the question.
It also depends on how people are searching, because like you said, if they're searching for a specific product, best new grill, best air conditioning system for my house or whatever it is, they're going to get very different results. I think about like just yesterday, my husband texted me because our back door wasn't closing correctly. And he goes, well, the door must have gotten racked somehow. And I was like, I don't know what that means. So I Googled it and I said, what does it mean when your door is racked?
That's so funny.
And it gave me the answer.
And did you talk to him like you totally knew?
Yeah, 100%. Of course I did. Of course I did. That is a very different search experience. And people still search like that all the time, as opposed to where can I buy a brand new Nissan?
Well, and keep in mind, users are 3 times more likely to click on a shopping result with an image than a text ad. But not every business has that. So if you are a business that's listening and you have something that you would be able to show an image, a car dealer is a great example of that. I think car dealers are kind of behind the 8 ball right now on it. They should be doing these Google listing ads with the image of their vehicles in addition to their text ads. Mm-hmm. That's the best way that they're going to get and utilize that. Unfortunately, you have these big manufacturers out there that are forcing dealers into using only their preferred vendors that don't even know what they're doing half the time, and they're not pushing the Google listings.
No, but they just have a deal to get
and they
cheap.
Only allow you to do this much, and you have to get co-op if you only use these preferred vendors. The preferred vendors they're just in the boys club, I guess. I don't know how to say it any better.
Somebody's getting a kickback
Somebody's getting a kickback somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, think about your business. If you're the type of business that there's not going to be AI generated information that comes up, the text ads, and you don't have images, like text ads are still your number one best bet, and that's where you should be, right?
Well, how can you make your text ads stand out to maintain your visibility if you don't have
well, the game isn't over. Like I said, that's still really valuable. It just continues to change, right? I like to say we're basically playing chess while some advertisers are still playing checkers. And I think I've actually heard you say that a few times in certain things when it comes to social, right?
Oh, yes.
The businesses that are doing well right now are the ones that understand that these new features work, and they're giving Google exactly what it needs to consider them relevant. So we just have to be aware of it. And then I would just say have a trusted partner that you can ask these questions about. Not every marketing manager is going to understand the ins and outs of what is going on when it comes to SEM and how it relates to AI. I mean, I can guarantee you there's companies that aren't even talking about this. I can't go to bed at night because I think about this when I started using AI more, and I was like, how's this going to affect my SEM? And then as a user, I love when I get AI generated, but there's other times I just really want the ad.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking for something very specific, and I want you just to give me what I'm looking for. I don't want article after article after article on Google. I want what I asked. Does that make sense?
Yes, 100%.
The strategy is be aware, right? It's going to continue to change and be ahead of the game. Again, be proactive, not reactive to the change when it comes to SEM. The fact that Google cost per click is going down, what that's telling me is Google is wanting you to move your dollars into something else in addition to the text ads. That's where I'm seeing it going. I was at a meeting this week and Jim asked me, why do you think the cost per click is going down? And I said, it's a lot of factors. From a year ago, we were in an election year. There was different things going on. But, that is one of the things that I do believe is part of it is they're starting to pull back and give you a little bit more into your budget so that they can move you into some other avenues. Right? Does that make sense?
Well, and that leads very naturally right into my next question for you, which is, what does it mean for ad budgets and campaign structures? Are businesses going to end up spending more for the same results? Or it sounds like they might be spending less, or do we not know yet?
We don't know. I'm watching it. I'm doing analysis. What I do know is cost per click for traditional text ads has increased by 22% as competition intensifies for fewer visible positions. So there's some avenues that have increased. There's other avenues that I'm seeing a cost per click go down. So I'm seeing both. If I take a business from last year and then I compare to what they did this year, I am seeing a trend go down. When that happens, you are getting more bang for your buck, but it's almost like a savings to me. You should kind of scroll it away and try something new. And if you're not willing to do that, then what you need to do is add more to your budget. What I can tell every client that's ever worked for us, not one of them is at the max spend they should be. Maybe one or two because they're very unique. But for the most part, there's very few of our clients that are spending the amount of budget that is showing up that they could be allotting. They're not owning 100% of the market share is what I mean.
That's what I was going to ask is how do you know if they're spending enough?
We measure impression share. People think it is market share, but it's really an impression share is how your budget, if you have a $5,000 budget, how much with that budget of the impressions that are available are you getting to come up?
Okay.
So if you have a $5,000 budget and it's a very competitive market, you might only own 30% impression share. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It just means based on your budget, your ad is showing up, 30% of the time. But if you have a $10,000 budget, that doesn't always equate to now I'm going to have a 60% impression share.
Right.
It is very skewed. The best thing to analyze that is to just look at your history.
Right.
And then we constantly run estimates, like what should you be spending based on the search of the last 30 days. 9 times out of 10, when we do that, we are always getting more clicks than the estimate is showing because we optimize our campaigns the right way.
Yep.
So that, that's a big factor. So what does all this mean for our budgets? I can go back and give you you should do this, you should do this. Just listen to your partner. And if you don't have one, when it comes to SEM, like at some point you do need to wave the red flag and say, I need help.
Yes.
Come see us. I mean, can business owners do their own SEM and Google AdWords? Yeah, but those are the people that are spending $500 a month.
100%. Yeah, if you're spending a high level. And how much time do you have to spend optimizing those campaigns?
We tweak it. The most is done in the first year for sure. First 90 days, we're tweaking it, watching it. But the things that you're missing is, like, I guarantee you there's nobody on the back end really looking at your SQR reports, your search query reports. That's something that we're doing on a regular basis. Really, about 2/3 of businesses need increased search budgets just to maintain visibility. Like, that's it. We go at clients every year and say, because of cost per click and more competition, you need at the minimum to throw another $250 to $500 at this. I mean, that's just to stay competitive.
Yeah.
It is going to continue to change how campaigns look. The good news is we are always on top of it as best we can. And my advice to any small business owner is, if you really want to see high ROI and you sell a product or a service that a lot of consumers search for, and you are retail specifically, you really got to be ahead of the game. But even without it, you need to be aware what these answer boxes are and how AI relates to SEM and how it's going to continue to change the landscape.
100%. So let's wrap it and bring it back up to ROI, how we always like to finish. How does adapting to these AI-driven search of today and all the changes that we're expecting to happen in the future, how does that translate to better ROI for businesses?
Well, here's the good news. The businesses that are adapting quickly and are open to this type of change, they're not just maintaining or surviving, they're actually seeing better returns, which is what ROI is about, right? It reminds me of when a mobile search took over and everyone panicked, but the business that pivoted quickly ended up dominating. When all of a sudden we're like, oh, we got to have 2 platforms and we got to have a mobile platform. The ones that just said, oh, yeah, it's where it's at, mobile.
Yeah.
They never lost pace. In fact, they paced ahead of the game, which is ROI all day long. So businesses are optimizing for these new search features. We'll continue to see higher conversions, even over 30%. Local businesses appearing in some of those snippets report just under 50% higher traffic. Just with the Google listing directories and stuff, like what we do through Yext, our location concierge package we work with on all the directories, that alone, you're seeing increased searches based on that.
And huge clicks and huge keyword research. That pairs really well with your search engine marketing campaign because you get so much data about what are people actually searching for and is your listing coming up.
Yes. And e-commerce is a whole different beast. I could have a conversation just on it. We don't have a ton of e-commerce clients, which is why I didn't really focus on that. AI is changing things a lot with what's going on with e-commerce. But those type of companies who have been open to these type of new products, their customer acquisition is going down, which is a higher ROI. There was a case study that I came across at a furniture store that was regional. They shifted their strategy to focus on their shopping ads, right? Putting the images in there. And they saw that 36% increase in store visits with spending 12% less in ad spend because they moved.
Visits.
Yeah, exactly. In store. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it's about spending more, but it's also about being smarter with your budget and your strategy. You got to have the strategy.
Yes. And if you don't have the strategy, then you're just throwing darts in the air and hoping it lands.
Exactly. With everything we do, you got to have a strategy. So, well, that's it. I think we've worn out our AI for a little bit. We know there'll be a headline tomorrow, and so we'll have to talk about it.
We say that, and then things are going to change.
Right.
But the nice thing about it is that we stay on top of it, and that's what a good partner does.
Yes. Well, thanks, Krystal. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in today, and join us for our next episode of Digital Marketing ROI.
You've been listening to Digital Marketing ROI from Federated Digital Solutions. Do you have an idea for a future episode or a burning digital marketing question? Text ROI to 45364 to get a link where you can share your idea. Subscribe to get new episodes every other Thursday, plus Tip Tuesday insights every week.
Podcasts by Federated Media.